Making Digital Transformation Work for Us, also wie die Digitalisierung auch für uns funktionieren kann. Ich möchte euch wieder dazu auffordern, eure Fragen loszuwerden. Ihr dürft die sehr gerne in den Chat schreiben und am allerbesten auf Englisch, denn die nächste Keynote von Amy, die wird auch auf Englisch sein. Amy Sample Ward ist der Überzeugung, dass die gemeinnützige Tech-Community eine treibende Kraft da ist sie schon, hallo, für eine gemeinwohlorientierte und inklusive Digitalisierung sein kann. Und Amy ist Geschäftsführerin von NTEN. NTEN unterstützt Non-Profit Organisationen dabei, ihre Aufgaben mithilfe digitaler Anwendungen zu erfüllen, damit sie eben effektiver sind, effizienter sind und natürlich auch inklusiver sind. Und in ihrer Keynote wird es jetzt darum gehen, dass digitale Anwendungen eben nicht nur Menschen steuern sollten. Also sie wird jetzt Input dazu geben, wie die gemeinnützige Tech-Community Anwendungen und Systeme gestalten kann, bei denen eben auch das Persönliche im Mittelpunkt steht, die gesellschaftlichen Bedürfnisse, die Ziele, die wir haben als Menschen und eben auch als Zivilgesellschaft. Und Amy inspiriert mit diesen tollen Worten, die sie uns gleich näher bringen wird, also nicht nur ihr NTEN-Team und Partnerinnen weltweit, von einer tollen Gesellschaft, wie sie vielleicht aussehen könnte im Digitalen, sondern sie geht auch eben dieser Frage nach, wie gute Digitalisierung gestaltet sein könnte. Also genau das, was wir auf diesem Summit hier heute am ersten Tag auch schon die ganze Zeit besprochen haben. Making Digital Transformation Work for Us heißt der Titel, also von ihrer Keynote. Hello Amy, good to have you here. How are you?
Good. Thank you for having me. I am sad that I am not in Berlin right now, but in a year without a pandemic, I will come.
That's great. So we are very happy to have you here, and we are very excited to hear what you have to say.
Awesome. Thanks so much. So I have worked at this intersection of technology and social change for over 15 years, but the last 12 months have elevated conversations about the use and impact of technology in our work and our personal lives in a way that wouldn't have been possible without billions of people around the world shifting into new realities all at the same time. For many folks, those shifts in how work was going to happen took shape literally in a matter of days, but the possibilities were not new. Many of the accommodations that people with disabilities have requested for years were implemented overnight when they benefited the non-disabled organizational leadership. Staff policies and benefits that employees with children or family members who need care have requested for years were approved when they served organizational leadership presented with their own schedule impacts for the first time. Even something that may today we all may be quite used to, meeting by Zoom, was not standard prior to last year, though it is clearly an approach that outside of the pandemic would serve many people. By just April 2020, Zoom had a 354% increase in organizational accounts for organizations that were larger than 10 employees. And we saw the rapid adoption of Zoom as nonprofits everywhere started signing up with the hope that it would mean they could continue their programs in a digital format. A few months later, we saw many of those same organizations realize that they made a decision about a technology tool out of convenience, and it may not have actually been right for their organization. Why? Because the only factor in their decision was the tool. Here's an example from the NTEN community. There's an organization whose mission is to provide mental health services in a narrow geographic specific community where they are physically based. Certainly common enough. But when the pandemic forced all of their staff and operations out of the physical building, they adopted Zoom and an online scheduling application. A few months later, they're looking at their client database and realize that they were now serving folks from various other states and beyond. The challenge of deciding what and how to respond to clients outside of their stated service area is a conflict of program commitment and mission alignment. The challenge would not have appeared, though, if the technology planning and implementation decisions had focused on their mission and the people they do and want to serve. Instead, they focus that planning with a view only on what tools exist. In technology planning and decision-making, the actual technology should be the last thing to consider. We have to focus first on people and goals. When we do that, the technology tools we consider, what we need of them, how they're evaluated, are vastly different than when we panic that everyone is working from home and we decide to adopt a video conference tool because it has a free promotion. Now, I'm not actually here to talk about Zoom, nor am I here to say that any organization should or shouldn't be using it. I'm here to talk about what it looks like in an organization to invest in technology by investing in your people and your goals. We will be led by technology and the whims of the for-profit tech sector until we invest in our own technology management and leadership capabilities. Ultimately, the fetishization and veneration of technology, especially the newest and shiniest of technologies, is an extension of white dominant culture and capitalism. Organizations and individuals working towards social justice should be committed to the work to dismantle white supremacy in ourselves, our organizations, and the systems we're part of. Our relationship to technology, largely created for and by the most privileged communities in our world, is a core component of the dismantling work necessary at all levels. We will not meet our missions and heal the societal harms our work addresses without a readiness to and a practice of changing how we think about, use, create, invest in, and implement technology within our work. I have 5 requests today that every organization of any size or mission or location can put into practice. Each of these will likely sound easier than it really is in practice, of course, and none of them are a one-time fix. The work to relearn our relationship with technology is work that will continue to evolve the deeper we go. Number 1, include technology responsibilities in every job description. I'm not interested in talking about IT staff when it is 2021 and very clearly every person in an organization is using technology. Yes, there are still IT staff and they have important and valuable roles as part of the team. But when I say I'm not interested in talking about IT staff, it's because it has long been used as a way of saying that the only people in an organization who should or could talk about technology are those that have IT in their job title. And that is neither true nor productive. We can't expect a diversity of folks across our organization to engage in strategic conversations about technology if we pretend that only a few folks in the organization even use technology. Every staff person's job description should explicitly name the types of technology tools that are used, the technology planning and budgeting that the staff person participates in, and the technology decision-making and leadership they're responsible for. When you include specific like these in a job description, you make clear to the staff person what they can expect, what they can push for if they are not receiving the support they need, and create clear opportunities for evaluation and growth. One of the most valuable components of job descriptions to me as a manager and a staff person is when I can clearly see across the organization who all is using which systems, who's part of influencing the decision-making and plans that impact those systems, and who is invested with me in the success of our work through technology. Number 2, hire people for mission and direction, not the tech skills. A common but massive mistake organizations make when they start putting technology explicitly into job descriptions is then expecting to hire people who already have experience using the same systems currently in use in the organization. There are so very many things wrong with this expectation, including the amount of privileges that come from having education and job experiences where those tools were also used, having had previous employment that included adequate professional development and on-the-job training, and much more. Even if your organization uses a certain tool, let's say a database, for example, that a potential candidate has used previously, they haven't used it in the ways your organization does. The actual implementation of one database in two different organizations can be vastly different. It just doesn't make sense to say that one candidate's previous use of a version of a tool that you use is more important to you than their interest and readiness in working toward your mission, in their planning and management of programs or strategies related to the role, or even their experience as a member of or having worked previously with the communities you serve. Every staff person should be trained fully and regularly on every tool, from phones to analytics or even artificial intelligence. Every tool that they need to use to do their job. Training is not just on the first day or first week, but something that is part of the organizational culture, prioritized in the budget for professional development, and included in staff goal setting so that continued improvement with and learning in technology is integrated across the organization. 3, include technology in your strategic plans. In over a decade of NTEN's research into technology staffing and investments in nonprofits, one of the most significant indicators that an organization was going to be effective with technology was whether or not they could name technology in their strategic plans. Doing so means that an organization can see how technology systems, data, infrastructure contribute to the mission. For many organizations, strategic or even fiscal year plans are incredibly influential when it comes to budgeting, fundraising, even budget allocations during the year. If technology systems and the training that should accompany them are not adequately understood or reflected in those strategic visions, there's a considerable challenge left on individual teams and staff members to advocate for appropriate decision-making, investment, and training. Number 4, include community members in your technology decisions. Centering your mission means centering those you serve. There is incredible benefit that comes from bringing community members participating in your programs or services into the process that impact how those programs or services may or may not benefit them. The same is true with technology. Are you planning to redesign your website or release new functionality? Maybe you're looking to use new platforms for communication, or are you thinking of migrating to a new database? All of these decisions and many more should include community members directly. This can be daunting to organizations who do not include space for community feedback in other areas yet, but whether this is something entirely new or something you have already tried, it is a valuable way to dismantle white dominant ways of doing business and recentering on the people most impacted. What this looks like will vary organization to organization and project to project. Using the example of redesigning your website, I recommend creating a committee of community members who have a diversity of experience with your website, folks who have used it thoroughly to those who haven't or even find it difficult to use, folks who rely on your website for communications or program access, and others who've relied on content from your other channels, and so on. The committee doesn't need to do all the work or be given more information or access than is necessary, but think of them as the most important stakeholders for your planning and approval process, because they are. Engage with them before you make firm plans, so their needs can be most influential in your prioritization for the scope of work. Bring them in to review options along the way. Provide them space to test and give feedback before it's live. Doing this will likely make your process slower, but that's a good thing because it will also make it better and make the ultimate outcome something that community members know was built for and with them. 5, prioritize self-determination. The experiences each of us have as individuals are unique, and where they may overlap in one moment, they diverge in another. There's no way that a truly better world will be built through our work by limiting what and how people can identify or what the impact of our programs and services are in their lives. While it may be very easy and quick to set up a database or event registration form with basic and rigid options for a user, doing so robs our community members of the opportunities to be seen and included as their true selves. What does it look like to allow every participant in your organization's services to tell you how they identify in their own words, instead of requiring they select one option from a short list of common terms? What does it look like for each program participant to set their own goals for what they want to come of their experience and not be told by the organization that what they will get from participating in a concise list of 3 outcomes? What does it look like to create expansiveness in your teams to work towards mission-aligned goals without metrics or targets selected in a vacuum? Prioritizing self-determination is a critical component to community-centered work, as it prioritizes the actual community over the technology tools that will regularly prompt you to cut them out of the process. As I said at the start, these 5 requests for change are going to be easier to talk about than to practice. They're asking a lot of each of you as individuals and of your organizations. They are 5 actions of a much longer list of actions that contribute to the collective dismantling of systems that are actively creating and perpetuating the societal issues our organizations have been created to counteract. I'm thrilled to be in this work in partnership with all of you so that we can really put technology to use for our missions and our missions to use for a better world. Thank you all.
Very quick, but very helpful, I think, but I still have some questions left. So it sounds very nice, everything you say, but isn't still digital transformation a thing of money, or isn't it?
Is the question about money and the impact on an organization?
Yes.
Yes. You know, I think that money is a little bit of a clouding force. It makes us think that we have to have a lot of it. But in NTEN's research, you know, for 15 years, the size of an organization's budget has never correlated to their effectiveness. What does make an impact is how folks use the budget they have. So whether you are a very small organization or all the way up to a huge organization, regardless of how much budget you have, it's how strategic and intentional you are with that budget and not how much you have that's going to influence how and whether you are effective with technology.
And this actually leads me to another question, which is, it's not about the right tool, it's not about the money, it's about a mindset, I think. So, but how do you find those people who bring that kind of mindset you need for your organization?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, I think part of it starts with the organization's culture, letting go as an organizational culture with the staff you have today, that you're not going to, you know, celebrate technology as some saving thing or something more important than the rest of the work you do, but that it is a tool, you know, it is a hammer, it's not the house. And keeping technology in that place within your organizational culture will help you attract folks who connect with your organization. And when they are hired, they will see the organization culture is not focused on celebrating the tools, right? That the tools are really there in service to your work. I think organizational culture is, whether we're talking about technology or something else, hugely influential, and not to you know, think, oh, that doesn't matter as much. I think those softer ways that we talk about our work, that we talk about technology, really do add up to having a bigger influence on how individual staff may think or approach their work.
Mm-hmm. So I feel like some people are very overwhelmed in a way by the speed of this very rapid transformation, especially during those times in the pandemic. So how can we help those people in those times that they don't feel like I'm getting lost in this?
Right. Yeah, I think, you know, this sense of urgency that is not true has driven a lot of that panic or that stress, especially in the last year when it comes to digital and technology adoption and transformation. There's this feeling that we have to do it right now. But if we are saying we're going to include our community, then you're not going to be able to do it right now. It takes time to include people in that process. And doing that also buys you time. I think it's a great way for staff to say, hey, we actually have committed to including our community members. Let's slow this down. It takes the pressure off you as the staff person, right? Because it's not your request to slow down, you're advocating for the community. And it's also creating that a little bit more calmness so that folks can have more intentional decisions. I think the other piece of that is this feeling that, our work will stop if the very next day there's not a email or a message. And that's also not true, right? Like our work, the organizations that exist all around the world that have incredibly important missions are not going to be solved tomorrow, whether there was a pandemic or not. They weren't going out of business tomorrow because they were done, right? So remembering that we are in a long game, we are not in a one-day race to do anything. Again, back to that organizational culture. How do you talk about your mission with your staff, and how does technology support that mission so that folks are able to keep things in perspective and not feel rushed? Ultimately, reinforcing a sense of urgency is a core pillar of white dominant thinking. Things don't have to be fast to be good. And letting go of that is really part of all this work.
There's a lot of thankfulness around your keynote, which is really nice. So a lot of people here in my chat say, thank you, Amy. And one woman is asking, does Amy have any ideas for us how to approach the implementation of those 5 requests? Because I think those will make the difference in my organization, and not only in technological, but on a mindset level.
Yeah. It really starts with building power for change. I often think that technology work is just change management, right? Like you don't even have to talk about the actual technology, because to use technology, we're doing change management. We're helping people change. And to do that, you want to start by building power, finding folks across your organization so that these proposals come forward, not from people all on the same team, right? That often creates kind of an us versus them feeling within an organization. So folks from different teams who can say, yeah, we want to move all these things forward. What does that look like in our organization, depending on what norms you have or the size of your organization? But starting with that kind of core team that you can assemble from different departments or teams, and especially if you can have someone that is positioned as a leadership staff person, depending on what leadership means in your organization, that can be huge for adoption and accountability as well. And honestly, organizations that are most resistant to this, the way they get around that is they just go tell the community, hey, we want to do these things, including we want to include you. And when the community starts showing up, whether it's at the virtual door or the real door and saying, hey, I thought we got to be included now, leadership doesn't really have a choice but to say, okay, yeah, great, you can come on in. So start internally, build that team. And then if you really need it, just go tell the community that you're going to do these things and start inviting them in, because that's a different kind of peer pressure that organizations really have to bend to.
So what would you say? What is the most important thing if it's not technology when you want to be successful in a way with new technology?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is really knowing what you are trying to do, because there's no perfect tool out there for any job or any organization or any purpose. So the most important piece is that you really know what you want to do. I think a lot of times folks have a sense like we want to be on social media. That's not a goal. That's not the thing that you want to do, you know? But so folks will think that's the goal, and then they'll think, great, well, so let's just sign up. And now we're on TikTok or whatever it might be. But you need to come at that with, we want to engage with this certain community, and we know that they like this kind of content, and we know that they use these platforms, and we know that our organization has this kind of content. Great. Well, within that mix, what tool gets sussed out is probably not TikTok, I'm guessing, but also, you know, it's really then based on what you're trying to do, not just bending your organization or bending your communications or bending your data to fit some other tool. Those tools should be bent for your goals instead.
So, and thank you, Amy, very much. Since this was very inspirational and everybody says this here, I have one last question left, which is,
okay.
Is there something inspiring you have read, a book or something that you could recommend for our viewers here?
Oh my gosh, there are so many things.
Make it 3.
Okay, let's see. So something I've watched recently was this art, you know, because what is theater? What is art in the pandemic? It's been a challenge. And I found this incredibly moving kind of like installation video called My Joy is Heavy. And it's an incredible kind of story of the pandemic. And it made me think about the way we tell stories in technology and with technology. And technology is certainly part of their story. So My Joy is Heavy is one. I personally have found a lot of inspiration and grounding in what leadership looks like, what management looks like of teams, and even relationships to technology and other systems of oppression around us by studying abolition. And an incredible book that I just finished again is We Will Not Cancel Us. I think it's a really great collection of thoughts, especially the final message in there from Malkia Devich-Cyril. And you know, finally, I'll say I have found so much joy in Instagram memes. Just to get to the end of a hard day in a hard time that we are collectively all having, and it's hard. And to, you know, lay in bed and watch some good Instagram memes, it just feels so good.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you very much. Und das ist genau das richtige Schlusswort, denn auch wir kommen für heute zum Ende. Morgen geht es um 9:50 Uhr weiter. Wir haben auch wieder eine spannende Keynote, einen Politik-Talk, weitere Session-Reihen und vor allen Dingen, wir haben immer noch den Elbstrand. Und da könnt ihr nämlich auch heute noch den Tag ausklingen lassen. Da könnt ihr ein Getränk nehmen, vielleicht euch noch ein bisschen kennenlernen, eine Runde auf der Tanzfläche tanzen. Also ich würde mich sehr freuen, wenn ihr euch alle noch mal am Elbstrand einfindet auf eine kleine Runde. Vielen Dank für diesen tollen ersten Tag. Vielen Dank an alle Teilnehmenden, alle Sessiongeber und ich freue mich auf den morgigen Tag. Bis morgen um 9:50 Uhr.